Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about the Cold War. I'm going to move through these slides really quickly. If you are confused or need to go back, just pause the video and you can take the cursor back and re-watch the section. Alright, so we're talking about the Cold War today. You can see these two flags. We have the American flag on the right and the Soviet Union's flag with the sickle and hammer on the left. Our first main idea is going to be Victory in Europe, or VE Day. This is the end of World War II. So in April 1945, Soviet soldiers reached the outskirts of Berlin. Hitler, realizing he lost the war, committed suicide. The remaining Nazi leaders are killed or captured, and they're later put on trial. On May 7, 1945, Germany officially surrenders to the Allies, and the Allies declare victory, or VE Day, Victory in Europe. So here are some images. On the left you have a Soviet soldier flying the flag, the Soviet Union's flag, over the Reichstag. The Reichstag was the parliamentary building of the German government, and this is 1945. Hitler actually commits suicide in a bunker below the Reichstag. On the right you have high-ranking Nazi officials who are captured by and being guarded by American troops and Allied troops, and they're later put on trial in Nuremberg, Germany in 1945. Many of them are found guilty and hung after their trial. Here we have in the upper left-hand corner Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of England, giving a victory speech that was broadcast all over England. And in the upper right hand, we have American troops celebrating VE Day. Our next main idea is going to be the start of the atomic age. Our first detail is, on August 6, 1945, the U.S. dropped the first atomic bomb ever used on Hiroshima, and the second 3 days later on Nagasaki. These two atomic bombs are the only atomic bombs or nuclear weapons that have ever been used in a war in world history. This was the first, as this next point illustrates, this was the first and only time that nuclear weapons were used in war. Roughly 250,000 Japanese civilians and soldiers were killed by the two atomic bombs. On August 15th, 1945, Japan surrendered to the Allies as a result of the use of atomic bombs. Here you can see aerial photographs. On the left we have the bombing of Hiroshima on August 6th. On the right we have the bombing of Nagasaki on August 9th, 1945. Here's some American photographs. American troops actually went into Hiroshima and Nagasaki afterwards and took photographs. As you can see, everything is absolutely destroyed. At ground zero, there were no survivors. On the upper left-hand corner, there's a photo with a number of bodies of Japanese civilians who were killed. You can see the effects that it had on humans and what it did to this one woman. The atomic blast also left shadow marks on the pavement. So you can see in the bottom right-hand photo, this fence, the atomic blast happened, and it left a permanent shadow on the pavement. As I mentioned, after the atomic bombs were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan officially surrendered. These are representatives of the Empire of Japan on the USS Missouri, agreeing to surrender to the Allied forces. Again, here are two pictures of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. As a result of the development and the use of nuclear and atomic weapons, what happened is it started an arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union. So after the United States had developed atomic weapons, the Soviet Union was in a race competing with the United States to develop their own weapons. And on August 29th, 1949, the Soviet Union tests its first atomic weapon. The U.S. later tests another atomic bomb on the Marshall Islands on November 1st, 1952. The Soviet Union tests another atomic bomb on August 12, 1953. So you can already see how both the United States and the Soviet Union are competing to develop new technology and weaponry, including atomic weapons. All right, our next main idea is going to be a bipolar world. After the end of World War II, two superpowers emerged. A superpower is a very powerful or influential nation. Just as there are two poles on the Earth, the North and South Pole, there were two superpowers in the world, the United States and the Soviet Union. Therefore, the world became divided in two, or became bipolar. As this image illustrates, on the top of the globe there is the North Pole, and on the bottom of the Earth there is the South Pole, the North and South Pole. Likewise, during the Cold War, there were two poles, where the world became bipolar and divided between the Soviet Union and the United States. This is despite the fact that the United States and the Soviet Union were allies and part of the Allied alliance during World War II. So this is a photo at the end of World War II, with Winston Churchill on the left sitting down, who is the Prime Minister of England, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who's the President of the United States, and the dictator of the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin, on the right. They had met in Yalta at the end of World War II to decide what was going to happen to Europe. But despite being allies, the U.S., despite the fact that the U.S. and the Soviet Union were allies, they would later enter into the Cold War and competing for power throughout the world. So, as I mentioned, Europe is divided at this point. So this is our next main idea. At the end of World War II, Europe was divided in half between the United States and her close allies and the Soviet Union. Tensions between the USSR and the US increased. As we've gone over in class, the Soviet Union was a communist dictatorship controlled by Stalin, and the US was a capitalist democracy. You can see on this map the division in Europe. So the red countries are communist countries or countries allied with the Soviet Union, while the blue countries are countries that are allied with the United States, England, and the West. The white countries, you may notice Yugoslavia, Austria, Sweden, Finland, are independent nations who are neutral. Just at the end of World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union defeated Germany and met outside of Berlin. That meant that the eastern half of Germany was being occupied by the Soviet Union, and the western half of Germany was being occupied by France, Great Britain, and the United States. These were the four countries that were the Allied powers in World War II, but at the end of World War II, divisions increased between the Soviet Union and the Western countries. So what happened is Germany was actually split in two. So on the right, we have the German Democratic Republic, and on the left, we have the Federal Republic of Germany. These countries would be known as West Germany and East Germany. East Germany was closely allied with the Soviet Union, and West Germany was closely allied with the United States and other Western countries like France and Great Britain. And just as the country of Germany was divided in two between East and West Germany, Berlin, the city, the capital of Germany, was also divided in two. So you can see this close-up shot of Berlin. On the eastern half of Berlin is controlled by the Soviet Union at the end of World War II, and the western half of Berlin is controlled by France in the upper left-hand corner, Great Britain in the center, and the United States in the lower left-hand corner. So Berlin, just like all of Germany, becomes split in half between Western Berlin and Eastern Berlin. Eastern Berlin is part of Eastern Germany, and Western Berlin is part of West Germany. So at the end of World War II, our next main idea is going to be the Marshall Plan. So the Marshall Plan was a plan developed by the United States. It gave economic aid and money to Western European countries to help them rebuild after World War II. The U.S. gave roughly $13 billion to Western European countries. The aid helped rebuild infrastructure such as roads and schools and buildings. It helped create factories and businesses and restarted economic life in Europe. The plan was also intended to help stop the spread of communism. That is, communist countries were not given aid, money, or support to help them rebuild after World War II. As you can imagine, Stalin and other countries that were part and allied with the Soviet Union did not like the fact that they did not receive aid or money to rebuild their infrastructure or economy after the war. So this shows two different photos. I know you can't really see the photo on the bottom too well, but on the top you can see the German city of Hamburg in 1947. This is right at the end of World War II, before the Marshall Plan. You can see it's still pretty destroyed after the end of World War II, but in 1952, the city of Hamburg, and you can kind of see it, is being rebuilt. Economic life is coming about. The roads are clear. There's cars on the road. People are shopping, etc. So you can see already the effects of the Marshall Plan. Here are some more photos illustrating the effects of the Marshall Plan on European countries. There are tractors, cars, electrical lines, boats, etc., being built with money and resources from the United States. Again, communist countries did not receive this aid during this period. All right, our next main idea is going to be NATO and the Eastern Bloc. In 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also known as NATO, was founded. NATO is a military alliance between Western European countries, the United States, and other countries. For example, Canada and England were also part of NATO. The Eastern Bloc were communist countries and countries allied with the Soviet Union. So you can already see that the division between Europe and the world at this time is being entrenched in these two organizations. On the one hand, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization with Western Germany and other countries in the Western Europe who are allied with the United States, and then the Eastern Bloc countries who are the countries that are allied with the Soviet Union. So going back to our map, you can see red is the Soviet Union, also known as Russia, the big country right there. The pink countries are Soviet Union aligned countries. So they are countries who are allied with the Soviet Union. They include Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria. It looks like orange and green are non-aligned countries. So Yugoslavia and Albania, who had been aligned with the Soviet Union, but then broke off relations with the Soviet Union. Then we have independent or neutral nations like Finland, Switzerland, and then the dark purple bluish color are all Western aligned countries. They include Greece, Norway, Iceland, United Kingdom, which is also known as England, Denmark, West Germany, Italy, Turkey, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg. These are the countries that are allied with the United States and do not like communism. All right, I think this is going to be our last main idea for today. The last main idea is containment. During the Cold War, the U.S. developed a policy referred to as containment. Containment means military and political strategy to stop the spread of communism. The U.S. had a containment policy because they wanted to contain the spread of communism. As we just saw in the last slide, the Soviet Union had a number of allies in Eastern Europe and other countries who were becoming communist. We're going to look at countries like China, Korea, and Vietnam who had communist revolutions. The U.S. developed a containment policy to stop the spread of communism. Just like if you had a moth that was flying around in your house and you wanted to stop it from moving around or spreading or laying eggs, you would try to capture it or contain it in a jar. The U.S. had the same policy, but for communism. They wanted to contain communism so it couldn't move about and spread. All right, that's it for today. If anything's confusing, please pause right now and go back and rewatch the sections you need more help on. Thanks. Bye.